From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Kayode Okikiolu.
Tonight, President Bola Tinubu redeploys some ministers designate, names Abubakar Momo as the Minister of Niger Delta, moves Adigboyi Oyetola to Marine and Blue Economy, Bumi Tunji-Ojo to Interior, while Saidu Alkali is now in charge of Transportation. Human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, asks the federal government to release suspended chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdurrashid Bawa, from custody without any further delay. Diplomats, environmentalists, others converge on Asaba, the Delta State capital, to discuss the importance of education to nation building as part of activities to mark the annual Nelson Mandela Day. And Spain beat England to win the Women's World Cup for the first time in an entertaining final in Sydney. We'll begin tonight with the president's last-minute changes to his cabinet formation just a few hours before the ministers designate take their oath of office. President Bola Tinubu has redeployed engineer Abubakar Momo from the Federal Ministry of Youth to the Federal Ministry of Niger Delta Development. According to a statement by presidential spokesman Ajuri Ngalale, the Federal Ministry of Youth is to be reassigned to a minister designate soon. Also, the ministers designate allocated to the Federal Ministries of Transportation, Interior, and Marine and Blue Economy have been reshuffled as follows. Mr. Adigboyi Oyetola is redeployed as Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, while Bumi Tunji-Ojo is redeployed as Minister of Interior. Honorable Saidu Alkali is now to take charge of the Ministry of Transportation. The statement further states that both Ministers of State in the oil and gas sector are now domiciled in the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources with the following designations. Senator Heineken Lokobiri is the Minister of State for Oil, Petroleum Resources, while Honorable Ekperikpe Ekpo is the Minister of State Gas, Petroleum Resources. The President has also approved the renaming of the Federal Ministry of Environment and Ecological Management as the Federal Ministry of Environment. All the changes, of course, take immediate effect. A senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, has written to the Department of State Services, DSS, asking for the release of the suspended chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Abdurrashid Bawa, from what he termed illegal custody without any further delay. In a statement, Mr. Falana also asked the federal government to ensure that the rights of Mr. Bawa and that of the suspended CBN governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, are respected by the DSS and others, even though, according to him, the duo had a penchant for disobeying the orders of the court when they were in office. Mr. Falana's statement reads in part, "The plight of both suspects should be a lesson for all, that's public officers in Nigeria who always behave as if there will be no tomorrow." He adds that the government, which rules by law, is under legal obligation not to breach the fundamental rights of citizens except in a manner prescribed by the Constitution of Nigeria. Mr. Emefiele, who is now facing trial on a 20-count charge bordering on alleged fraud, was arrested on June the 10th over allegations of terrorism financing, while Mr. Bawa was squeezed by the Secret Services over allegations of abuse of office leveled against him. More stories now. The life and times of global icon Nelson Mandela have come alive once again as the world marks the International Day in honor of his accomplishments and efforts towards making the world a better place. While describing the late African leader as an epitome of excellence and an advocate of unconditional forgiveness, South African ambassador to Nigeria, Professor Bobby Moore, insists that quality education will play a significant role in achieving most of the dreams of late Nelson Mandela for Africa. But this and other issues bordering on protecting the environment were discussed during a lecture put together by environmentalist Newton Jibonu at the Nelson Mandela Gardens and Resort Asaba, the Delta State capital.
The Mandela Garden, Asaba, offers a serene environment as guests converge for a lecture in honor of the late Nelson Mandela, the former South African anti-apartheid activist and politician who served as the first president of the country. The guest lecturer, the South African Consul General in Lagos, Bobby Moreau, draws lessons from the life of Mr. Nelson Mandela and how he impacted the global stage. Mr. Moreau underscores the importance of education as a veritable tool for African development, just as Mr. Mandela propagated.
Education is power. Without any doubt, I would not be standing here speaking English had it not been the benefits of education. Has my life been of benefit to my immediate community? Has my life been of benefit to those whose hearts have touched mine? I continue to ask myself that question, for I do not have answers.
The gathering also addressed subjects relating to the environment. Foremost environmentalist, chairman and founder, Mandela Gardens and Resorts, Newton Jibuno, expresses his concern about human activity that has led to the gradual degradation of the environment.
Yes, environmental degradation we used to look at as a matter of a distant issue, but it's now with us, which is why this PLC celebrating Mandela has to do with environmental matters, because we are about to start facing some catastrophes coming from the way we have abused our planet Earth.
The impact of the former South African leader on the environment is further demonstrated with the planting within the garden. The representative of the Delta State government leads other guests to kickstart the planting of 95 trees. In an interview, the South African envoy speaks about the relationship between Nigeria and South Africa.
Nigeria is one of the best African countries in the continent alongside South Africa. What we can only do is to enhance the understanding of the values that Nelson Mandela espoused in order to inculcate the spirit amongst individuals in Nigeria in order to contribute to the already existing good work that the government of Nigeria is doing.
The event also featured the presentation of books to individuals and the decoration of the South African Consul by the Newton Jibuno Foundation.
Congratulations. Thank you so much. Please come and put our hands together.
Well, still talking education. Unless the learning environment is good and conducive, no learning will take place in schools. But these are the words of the governor of Osun State, Mr. Adeleke. In an interview with Channels Television, Mr. Adeleke speaks about the state government's effort to enhance learning in the state schools and the plans to employ and train new teachers.
I went around all the schools with my leg. They said they've never seen this type of gun, no. That they said nobody has come over there. I was crying. I said, how can how can the student be studying in this, no roof, no chairs, nothing whatsoever? Abba, if you want to study, that part of it, that place, that environment must be conducive for children, where we sit down, everything clean and everything like that. They'll be able to study. Whereby that they will sit on the floor, how can they concentrate? Teachers, I plan to employ more teachers, give them training, summit. Even as I'm speaking to you, all the commissioners, the trade advisor, we have done training twice now. Let the expert come and tell them when you're talking about governance, this is what we are talking about. We have done that. So I will employ more teachers that are very skillful. I have the expert already in my cabinet. Give them computer. Technical schools will be back. If you know that you don't want to go to that full school, it's your work, your hand. Your Bible says it's your work. So they will do that vocational school. We are working on that too. So things are improving. Immediately you are going to, when you think of where you are going, for example, if I go to my office, I don't like to leave. I like to be working because it's beautiful. I will sit down there till even 10, 1 a.m. sometime, treating files, receiving visitors, because it's conducive. So why can't I make all the teachers to be comfortable, pay their salary regularly, give them an incentive, let them go for training?
For the full interview with Governor Adeleke, do watch Newsnight tomorrow, Monday by 9 p.m. only on Channels Television. To border security now, Nigeria has about 86 official land borders and 14 seaport border control posts. But over the years, there have been concerns about how porous some of Nigeria's land borders are. But this has warranted policies and decisions by successive governments to tighten these loose ends in strict compliance with protocols guiding transnational trade, thereby boosting local production and cutting uncoordinated trade losses. In the special report, our correspondent Dari Dowu covers some of the issues and current situations, particularly at the Seme border.
The Benin-Nigeria border is a long stretch and runs from the tri-point with Niger in the north down to the Bight of Benue in the south. At the Lagos end, it's not business as usual owing to different factors. In August 2019, former President Muhammadu Buhari ordered the closure of Nigeria's land borders. In November same year, they then ordered the field to communities within a 20-kilometer radius of the country's borders. The filling stations at some border communities are considered conduit pipe for fuel smugglers. We noticed as we travel along the coastal road, the fuel stations are short and out of business. And these two only survive the hammer of the 20-kilometer radius mark by a few meters.
Is gone.
The anticipated effect of this announcement by the president seems to have trickled down to this corridor.
The disparity in price between what fuel is sold in our neighboring countries and what it is sold in Nigeria has been brought almost at par.
If fuel smugglers have been kicked out of business, what about those smuggling rice and other banned items? I spoke with two indigenes of Badagry, Emmanuel Afolabi, a tourism promoter, and Shola Adeneye, who runs a cross-border haulage business.
What are the customs and the law enforcement agents looking all the way from the border? You can't imagine that kilometer all the way from border to somewhere around Badagry Market, Badagry Roundabout, people's home.
I can tell you 80% of rice that we consume in our homes is foreign rice. Customs are doing what the government said they should do. They have done a lot of work. They can only do what they can. But these people that you are talking about, that you are calling, they are doing smuggling, they are hungry men. An hungry man is a desperate man. And a desperate man will do anything just to earn money. Are you getting me? They can close all the border. They can stand there 24 hours.
Custom work is such that we have been given the powers under the Nigerian Customs Service Act 2023 to traverse every nook and cranny of this country, to make search, to intervene, to arrest any person, any house, any premises that we suspect may be housing unwholesome goods, what we call contraband goods in common language.
We'll check in.
To have a clear picture of the situation, we join the anti-smuggling surveillance operation at the border.
Cop smuggling. We'll patrol there this evening on surveillance to make sure that we checkmate smuggling activities.
Our first stop is this beachfront. The customs says it's a smuggling hotbed at night.
Sometimes we face resistance in trying to enter some particular communities. We're not sent by government to kill or destroy people. as much as we're doing, making efforts to combat smuggling to its barest minimum, we try not to inflict pain by causing deaths.
As the day wore on, we moved to the creeks. Cameraman and I are in the company of armed operations team, and as a form of protection, the amber light is kept on to avoid surprises from the community considered notorious for smuggling.
As we're going in now, do not be surprised that if anything was actually going on there or is to go on there, you understand? They would have been informed. They have their informants.
This is a creek in Badagry, one of the places placed on high surveillance by the customs. They say they have to do routine checks here every now and then because of the fact that they've made some seizures here in the past, say rice, PMS, and other items that have been banned by the country. And that is why men of the customs must always come around here. You can see here it's quite dark at the moment, but there's a canoe. There is really nothing suspicious on ground. It's just some people using the channel to move to another community, although from what we gathered from the customs, this particular creek takes you from this particular point, you can get to Ogun State, even to the neighboring country in Benue Republic. The customs says it has recorded success in similar operations and on the highway. However, border communities and those who apply these access frequently are worried about the multiple roadblocks mounted by various state and non-state actors along the border and its effects on trade facilitation. Dari Ido, Channels Television News.
Well, in part two, after the break, former military spokesman Brigadier General Sani Usman joins us to look at cross-border crimes and how they can be tamed. That's in a moment. Let's join us again. Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. President Bola Tinubu redeploys some ministers designate, names Abubakar Momo as Minister of Niger Delta, moves Adegboyega Oyetola to Marine and Blue Economy, Bumi Tunji Ojo to Interior, Oseido Okali is now in charge of transportation. Human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, asks the federal government to release suspended chairman of EFCC, Abdurrashid Bawa, from custody without delay. Diplomats, environmentalists, and others converge on Asaba, the Delta State capital, to discuss the importance of education to nation building as part of activities to mark the annual Nelson Mandela Day. And Spain beat England to win the Women's World Cup for the first time in their history in an entertaining final in Sydney. And for more on our earlier story on border security and control, we're joined on the news at 10 by former Army spokesman, Brigadier General Sani Usman. He joins us live from our Abuja studio. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Well, border control has again been brought to the fore, particularly with the situation in Niger and how it might affect at least 7 states in Nigeria with several illegal entry points. But can you tell us what, in your opinion, is a major challenge of border control and security in Nigeria?
There is no doubt about the fact that Nigeria is having a serious challenge with border security because of the cross-border criminal activities, and these borders on arms trafficking, not just necessarily smuggling of banned goods and contrabands, arms trafficking, human trafficking, and so many other things. And if you are even talking about that, apart from what brought about the illegal, border crossing, so to speak, in the northern part of the country, with Niger Republic alone, we share a total 1,608 kilometers length of border. So it is very difficult to police it. And given the resources available and given the cultural and socio-economic relationship between the Nigerians and their respective border counterparts in other countries, take for instance, in Cameroon, Niger, Chad, and Benin Republic, you can understand that it is very, very difficult to police the border. But that notwithstanding, it can be done in the sense that we have the capacity if we are determined. And most importantly, the issue of the use of technology and, again, harnessing the resources in terms of the security architecture. And apart from the security architecture, we should be talking about what happened to the, border community commissions and what have you. And most importantly, again, what is the relationship between the Nigerian state and its neighboring countries? Then, of course, we have to also involve international partners. So invariably, we can be able to effectively police our borders if all these things are put together to ensure that every key player is brought on board and the person is doing his or her best, as the case may be. And I know that those who are statutorily responsible for, policing the border, take for instance, Nigerian Immigration Service and the Nigerian Customs, they are doing the best they could, but they need to be supported with more modern-day technology. Take for instance, what do they have in terms of equipment, to police the border? We just saw the pictures of, some of our, outposts there. They look like an eyesore. And that in itself is not motivating enough. But that is even just an outpost. What of other equipment? What of the other resources needed to effectively police the border? Motivation for the personnel of the security agencies, all these things put together, they add to the challenges that we're having.
The situation that we have reported time and again, it is said that the insecurity along the borders is exacerbated by extortion on the road by the same security agencies who are meant to protect the borders. So if we're talking about a lack of manpower, lack of technology, is that also responsible for security agencies essentially dropping the ball?
I think there is no excuse whatsoever for any government official or public servant to be corrupt. Instead of him or her performing his duty effectively and professionally, will resort to extorting the citizen that he or she is working for. There is no excuse whatsoever. However, we know the kind of situation we found ourselves in this country, and usually the police tend to say that you should not encourage the criminal. By that, you should not create an enabling environment for these criminal tendencies to take place. And there is no excuse whatsoever for it, that notwithstanding. But I think there is need to critically look at, the condition under which they serve and the condition under which they operate. So invariably, you can be able to eliminate this. And usually, criminal activities or corruptions, for instance, it involves two parties, the giver and the taker. Right. Nigerians tend to cut corners. If the law says that you should not do this and that, and of course you can effectively carry out your business without resourcing to cutting corners, you don't have to give bribe to anybody. So it takes two to tango. So we need to work assiduously, encouraging Nigerians to be forthright in terms of their business dealings, and at the same time, discouraging this official from, acts of unprofessional conduct. And of course, the law should be expeditious in dealing with such people if they are found wanting. So basically, that is it. But at the same time, we have to enhance the conditions under which they operate. But they are not magicians. They have to work with particularly other components of Nigerian society, especially the border communities in the country. There are no infrastructures. In fact, I might say they are totally neglected. I could remember a particular local government in the northeastern part of this country. That local government is barely 35 kilometers, to our to Niger Republic, our neighboring country. But I can rest assure you, as of the last time I was there was no motorable road. When I mean motorable road, not even the different Larry Kwanyan road. So you can imagine those kind of people have been neglected and totally abandoned. So they will resort to all sorts of things, and they will compromise and cut corners. And at the same time, they might even induce some of these officials. And in any case, you might not be able to get the desired support and cooperation from them. So it's a collective thing. So much as you look at, the security agencies, policing our borders, we should also see how best we can support them by enhancing the welfare and well-being of the border communities. And I know of a certain individual that, sometimes whenever the officials also are having one important engagement, it is the smuggler that will fund the social activities. That shouldn't be so.
Right.
So a lot of things need to be, be looked into. It is not just the issue of the security agencies themselves, but of course the average Nigerian, especially the border community. But of course you don't blame them simply because they tend not to be, given the sense of belonging they desire.
Well, clearly, there's a job of work for this government to do. We would like to thank you so much, Brigadier General Sonny Usman, former Army spokesman, for sharing your thoughts with us on the news at 10 to 9. And all eyes definitely will be on the ministers who have a role to play when it comes to security. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, too.
Well, the Nigerian Navy says that it has completed the hydrographic survey for the dredging of the Oguta Lake and Urashi River in Oguta local government area of Imo State to the Atlantic Ocean as it awaits the state government's approval for a date to unveil the hydrographic survey so the dredging of the river can start. The commander of Oguta Naval Base, Commodore Stephen Ibrahim, disclosed this when a state government delegation paid the base a courtesy visit to collaborate between the state government and the Navy to secure the waterways in Imo State.
Boosting the blue economy and addressing waterway security is beyond lip service for the Imo State government and the Nigerian Navy Oguta Naval Base, which is why there's a move to ensure the actualization of the dredging of Oguta Lake and Urashi River to the Atlantic Ocean in Oguta local government area after it was flagged up by the federal government. An initiative that Imo State government seeks collaboration with the Navy at this meeting.
This courtesy visit is geared towards the promotion of an harmonious relationship with all stakeholders operating in the downstream axis of our internal waterway to the ocean, which is connected with the dredging of the Oguta Lake to connect the terminal maritime bays at the coast globally. It is this situation that has informed our embarking on this courtesy visit to interface with you on the current situations, especially in the areas of internal waterway security, to prevent oil theft and other unwholesome activities in the internal maritime sector of Imo State.
The Naval Commander of Oguta Naval Base discloses that the hydrographic survey for the dredging has been completed and the actual dredging will commence soon to stimulate economic development in the area.
The presence of the base here has encouraged economic development, and we hope to see future developments. Like you earlier mentioned, the issue of the flag off of the survey report. The report is ready, and at the instance of His Excellency, it will be presented. And going forward, the Nigerian Navy is a critical stakeholder, and we're on standby to provide all the necessary support for the actualization of the dredging activities along the Oguta-Urashi Riverway. We are here to collaborate to ensure that the safety of the waterways, both for commercial and for private use. And on that note, I want to end and say that we're always here to give the normal support.
After the meeting, the delegation took a tour of the Oguta Lake and Urashi River, as the team maintains that when the dredging exercise is completed, it will change the fortunes of the people of the zone and the entire southeast region.
Staying with security, the spate of kidnapping and other forms of criminality in Cross River State has given Governor Basiotu cause for concern. And to address the menace, he has activated a people-based intelligence gathering mechanism with a promise to reward anyone who provides useful information to track the perpetrators of the crime. He made the promise at the Dan Archibong Lodge in Calabar, the state capital, while reading the riot act to criminals, after which he directed law enforcement agents to arrest and prosecute them.
A high incidence of kidnapping, abduction and other acts that are committed for the purpose of collecting ransom, including actions that prevent people from going about their legitimate business. It's very sad that instead of keying into the new administration's development strategy, the said elements by their actions show no love, sympathy or respect for human life. They have suddenly made our once peaceful state to become a pariah for tourists, investors, and even the ordinary people. This must stop, not tomorrow, but today. Heads of security agencies are therefore directed to employ all resources at their disposal to ensure that this menace stops forthwith and that all hostages are freed and returned safely back to their families. We are committed to operating within the ambit of the Cross River State Kidnap Prohibition Law, which was passed by the 8th Assembly, assented to by the Governor and Governor Yade and gazetted by government printer in 2016. For the avoidance of doubt, the said law makes provision for various penalties that my administration is ready and willing to enforce in order to bring the reprehensible criminal activity to an end.
Civil society organizations in River State have decried what they describe as the desecration of civic spaces and citizens' rights by security agencies operating in the state. But this was canvassed during a CSO's roundtable on human rights issues in Port Harcourt, the River State capital, following the unfortunate killing of an engineer, Alafuro Peterside, allegedly by a policeman.
The recent alleged killing of the member of the Joy Youth Congress, Mr. Alafuro Peterside, by a policeman has opened fresh wounds in the vexed issue of police brutality and humiliation that reverberated across the country in 2020 during the NSARS movement. To de-escalate possible tension occasioned by Peterside's death, among other things, civil society organizations in River State are brainstorming at this roundtable in Port Harcourt with a focus on protecting citizens' rights and curb harassment by security operatives.
First jeopardy is the fact that we suffer the regular abuses, unleashed upon us by Nigerian security forces, right? We also suffer the kind of abuses unleashed on us by other non-state actors. That's on the first hand. On the second hand, we suffer civic space abuses that have been engendered on account of oil extraction. Okay? So, when you will travel by river to Benue or wherever, this is the Niger Delta, is mostly riverine, and you are asked at some point to lift your hands up in surrender, right? And gunboats mounted. That is already an infringement on their civic space psychology.
Part of the CSO's agenda is to collate incidences of brutality as a way to help the state government tackle the issue.
We decided to assemble CSOs and NGOs in River State to take a look at the number of violated citizens' rights in River State and indeed Nigeria, with the view of collating them so that we can transmit them to the newly inaugurated government in River State. We look forward to a situation that we have a reduction in the number of violated rights, citizens' rights in River State.
Other participants believe these engagements are a way forward to a safer society given the recent incidents.
It is actually what defines our basic human rights, our right to participate in government, our right to express ourselves, to assemble together. So I think it's a very, very fundamental part of our lives as citizens of Nigeria.
We are meeting as a people of Rivers State, from the civil society, the media, organizations, legal profession, and even persons with disabilities are sitting down to review the entire civic space in Rivers State and profile solutions to the issues that affect us in the civic space.
The issues surrounding the respect of citizens' rights by security agents will continue to be highlighted on a regular basis in order to produce a society where citizens run to operatives for help rather than antagonize them due to the action of some bad elements within the force.
The Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has asked President Bola Tinubu to instruct former governors who are now serving as ministers to stop collecting life pensions and other allowances from their state while serving as ministers. SERAP also wants the former governors to return any pension and allowances they may have collected since leaving office to the public treasury. The rights group's action follows the confirmation by the Senate of former governors Abubakar Badaru, Nyesom Wike, Bello Matawale, Adegboyega Oyetola, David Umahi, Simon Lalong, Atiku Bagudu, and Ibrahim Gaidam to serve in President Tinubu's cabinet. SERAP argues that it's in the interest of the public to stop the former governors from collecting pension, as it will cut the cost of governance on the one hand and stop them from contravening the provisions of the 1999 Constitution on the other. To politics now, there appears to be unease in the camp of the APC in Benue State, which has led to calls to various groups in the party to harmonize their positions for equitable distribution of political offices. A social-cultural group from the Tiv-speaking part of Benue Northeast is accusing the SGF, who is also a Tiv native, of influencing the appointment of a ministerial nominee from Benue, amongst others. The group is also appealing to the feuding political groups to look towards the growth of the state and the party as a whole.
It is believed that the impasse in the different groups within the Benue APC became more obvious from the inauguration of the 10th Benue State House of Assembly, where the camp loyal to the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, lost out on the speakership position. This has affected the usual power-sharing formula across Benue State, which also includes the Idoma and Igede ethnic groups, which lost out the most. The Tiv-speaking area of Benue Northeast Senatorial District, where the governor hails from, is alleging that the SGF has given all federal appointments to his kith and kin of Jengba political bloc of Benue Northwest.
We frown at the recent nomination of ministerial position from Tiv Nation, which appears to be lopsided. The SGF himself from Jengba divide of the Tiv Nation to nominate another Jengba Tiv and another Jengba son for ministerial position does not portray the Tiv spirit of Yana, which is literally interpreted to mean eat and give your brother.
While this group is calling for a united front to address the seeming lopsided appointments so far, the people of Jechira have thrown their weight behind the governor. The meeting, which held behind closed doors with the governor, the leader of the group, and former governorship aspirant of the APC platform, Senator Barnabas Gemade, says it is time to support the governor to succeed.
I have to give the governor my full backing in order to succeed. This is why I'm here with all the leaders of the party that have been working with me to come and pay this courtesy call and solidarity visit.
Reacting to the support, Governor Hyacinth Alia commended the leadership of Senator Gemade and urged the people of Benue State to help him fulfill the vision for a new Benue.
As a statesman, he's demonstrated sportsmanship, and I appreciate all that. I thank him so much to have, demonstrated a good lead by example.
The House Majority Leader is calling for calm from all the divides. He tells everyone to focus on improving on the lives of Benue people.
If you look at Benue State now, we are back with more than 40 years. More than 40 years. Because of disunity. Because people are pursuing their selfish aims. It is high time. I'm just reiterating my call that we should come together.
While governance cannot be isolated from politics, the various groups in Benue will need to, as a matter of urgency, evolve a system that puts good governance above personal interest.
To healthcare now, the government of Kaduna State has announced plans to rehabilitate 200 primary healthcare centers across the 23 local government areas of the state as part of the government's determination to enhance access to affordable and efficient healthcare services in rural and urban areas. Governor Obasani, who made the disclosure while hosting officials of the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency, the World Health Organization, the UNICEF, and other key stakeholders in the health sector at the Government House Kaduna, explains that the rehabilitation is expected to reduce overcrowding. He also announced that 15% of the state annual budget will be allocated to the provision of healthcare services.
As part of advocacy to strengthen public health and primary health care delivery system in the country, a delegation from the National Primary Health Care Development Agency, World Health Organization, and UNICEF visits the Kaduna State Governor, Senator Obasani. The visit focuses on issues relating to primary health care services, with particular emphasis on ensuring universal health coverage and routine immunization for children and women.
We have seen huge progress in terms of reaching children in inaccessible areas. This is why we brought so many district heads to come to Kaduna so that we can share the experience with the people of Kaduna and how they have done it.
Just to appraise you, Your Excellency, Nigeria has again shown that it's possible to reach those children. Through the most recent outbreak response, Nigeria, under the able leadership of my brother, Dr. Faisal, has been able to reach 1.6 million children that were never reached in those areas.
While disclosing some of the measures put in place by his administration to strengthen healthcare delivery and checkmate disease outbreaks in Kaduna State, Governor Sani is optimistic that the state will achieve universal health coverage through massive enrollment of more residents into the state contributory health insurance scheme.
The Kaduna State government prioritizes the development of the healthcare sector because we believe that health is key to the economic development of the state. This is why the first bill I signed into law was a public health law. This law provides an institutional framework to achieve one health system made up of three sectors: health, environment, and agriculture, because of the interplay that exists in terms of prevention and prevention of diseases.
Beyond the visit, reducing health inequalities, enhancing health protection and disease prevention approach by strengthening the existing primary healthcare infrastructure and manpower remains a priority of the Kaduna State government.
Time is of the essence for 56 communities in Bauchi State who are at the risk of flooding. These communities were identified by the Bauchi State Environmental Protection Agency in 8 local government areas, which the Nigerian Meteorological Agency NIMET had predicted flooding by the end of August. Our correspondent Hajra Ali visited one of the communities and reports on how the people and the state government are preparing.
Cheledi in Kirfi local government area of Bauchi South is on red alert. It is one of the communities at high risk of flooding this year. 55 other communities in 8 local government areas are gearing up for the impending flood. An estimated 21 billion naira was lost to the disaster last year in the state, and 29 people died, according to the Bauchi State Environmental Protection Agency. We were led to one of the dams that controls floodwaters into Cheledi. The sand pitting at the edge of the dam is failing, and the water outlet is being encroached by floodwaters, posing great dangers to them.
Waterways are many to approach Cheledi town. As of now, we have at least 9 routes, waterways entering Cheledi town when this rainfall, heavy rainfall is happening.
Mr. Yahaya Yusuf is a victim of last year's flood, and as he stands on what used to be his house, he recalls the experiences of 2 years ago and fears a repeat.
Houses were being carried away like empty sachet water bags. My family climbed on this tree, and that was how we were saved.
This empty space you're seeing was once dominated by buildings. The people of the community say more than 80 houses were erected here, but they have all been leveled to the ground by flood waters. This time, to minimize the impact, the community carry out self-help projects through sandbagging and drainage repairs.
We are making efforts. We have been observing prayers, and we need more sand for bagging.
Most of the vulnerable communities are riverine areas, especially in Bauchi North. Roads are being washed out. Governor Bala Mohammed has inspected one of such, the Bauchi-Gombe Road, and calls on the federal government for a permanent solution.
The whole road is dead. It has been here for many years. And indeed, I thought there was a contract between Akwanga, Jos, Bauchi, and Gombe, but it has not come to fruition.
The Director General of the Bauchi State Environmental Protection Agency says that the state is adopting 3 short-term measures to minimize the impact of flooding.
We want to find a way, if there is any way that we can divert the water. That one has also some implications, so that's why we arrange that we need to go and see these categories of communities that we need to divert water from their own communities. The next one is we need to evacuate them because they are at the middle, of the river barrage areas, and there is nothing that could be done, to safeguard, their own communities.
People like Mr. Usman, who has chosen to remain in his house despite the threat, is hoping that the measure taken in his community will save him from becoming a victim of flood this time. Hajara Aliyu, Channels Television News.
Well, Spain has won the Women's World Cup for the first time in their history, with skipper Olga Carmona sweeping in the only goal for a deserved 1-0 victory over England. In front of a packed crowd of nearly 76,000 at Stadium Australia in Sydney, Spain were the more accomplished side and had more chances, including missing a second-half penalty. Spain's triumph is vindication for Jorge Vilda and the Spanish Football Federation, who stuck with the coach even after 15 players last year said they no longer wanted to represent their country under him. Meanwhile, Spanish fans celebrated outside Stadium Australia after their side beat England for their maiden Women's World Cup trophy. For the English fans, they remain proud of the Lionesses despite the loss. Our sports correspondent Cecilia Morgwe captured the mood in Sydney, Australia.
The FIFA Women's World Cup 2020. The tournament of many first, the trophy finally ended in the hands of Spain. They won the Under-17 World Cup, Under-20, and of course, right now, the Senior World Cup. For the fans, this is what it means for them.
I felt really proud that they won, and when the whistle rang and everything stopped, the whole crowd just went wild, and I really liked how they won, and it's a really good experience.
What I realized, I think, it was that Spanish people, we just kept on cheering and never stopped cheering, and then England on the other side, they never really cheered, and I think that's what, and I think that's what helped the girls achieve.
The girls' team of Spain don't have any type of World Cup, and it's time to get known on the world the girls' team.
So how do you feel about Spain winning the World Cup for the first time?
Yeah. Yeah,
so fun.
Yeah.
So fun. It's very good, the Coke.
English fans are not left out. They may have lost in the final, but they're hoping that next time the tournament will come home.
It always happens. We just get so far and then our dreams are broken, right?
We give credit where credit is due.
We'll be back. And the women's team, to get to a final is amazing.
They were so dominant, phenomenal. The passing was accurate, played a tight game, very clean, had most of the possession, it was just phenomenal. England did not bring it home,
From Stadium Australia, Sydney, Cecilia Mogbe for Channels Television News.
And also club football, Ghana's Premier League champions Medema Sporting Club beat Remo Stars 1-0 in the first leg of their CAF Champions League preliminary round. Jonathan Sowa got the only goal of the match played at the Cape Coast Stadium earlier this evening. Their Ghanaian opponent will now travel to Ikenne in Ogun State for the return leg this weekend. Meanwhile, Enyimba International lost to Libya's Al Ali Benghazi 4-3. A 1-0 win for Enyimba in Aba this weekend will guarantee the People's Elephant a spot in the next round. In the English Premier League, Chelsea boss Mauricio Pochettino suffered his first defeat as Mikel Antonio's superb strike and Enzo Fernandez's penalty miss condemned the Blues to a 3-1 loss against West Ham earlier today. After last weekend's draw against Liverpool, Pochettino's side wasted a lively performance as they paid the price for sloppy defending and wasteful finishing at the London Stadium. Early on, Aston Villa won for the first time this season as they routed Everton 4-0 to erase the bitter taste of last weekend's thrashing at Newcastle. American Noah Lyles rode to victory in a sensational men's World Championships 100-meter in Budapest this evening to extend the U.S. dominance in track and field's blue-ribboned event in the post-Usain Bolt era. Lyles, who already has 2 World 200 meters titles to his name and will go for a third in Hungarian capital, clocked 9.83 seconds, which is the fastest 100 meters time of the season so far. Botswana's Letsile Tebogo claimed silver in 9.88 seconds in a photo finish from Anguilla-born Briton Janelle Hughes. Tropical storm Hillary is said to be heading to the U.S. state of California. The National Hurricane Center is warning of life-threatening floods both in the U.S. and in Mexico, where Hillary is said to be lashing the state of Baja California. This will be California's first tropical storm in 84 years. More natural disasters. Thousands of people have been forced to evacuate British Columbia province in Canada as wildfires continue to rage. 2 huge fires in the Shuswap region merged overnight, destroying blocks of houses and other buildings. As many as 400 wildfires are said to be raging across the province. Up north, a huge fire continues to edge towards the city of Yellowknife. About 19,000 of the city's 20,000 inhabitants have been evacuated, including patients in hospital. Evacuation orders are in place for residents of British Columbia, for people living in more than 36,000 homes. Now, Canada is having its worst wildfire season on record, with at least 1,000 fires burning across the country. And the main news again. President Bola Tinubu today announced the redeployment of some ministers designate. Abubakar Momo is now in charge of the Niger Delta Ministry. Former Governor Adigboyi Oyetola has been moved to Marine and Blue Economy. And Mr. Bumi Tunji-Ojo has been moved to the Interior Ministry. Saido Kali, on his part, will now take charge at the Ministry of Transportation. A human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, today asked the federal government to release the suspended chairman of the EFCC, Abdurrashid Bawa, without any further delay. Well, that's the news at 10 for tonight, everyone. Thank you for watching. I'm Kaidu. Good night.